ask you this. I got to ask this question. Let's start. I know you all have heard of masterminds, but have you ever heard of wine with masterminds? I don't think you have, because you haven't met Robyn Woods yet. Robyn Jones Woods, the Robyn Woods, where you can find her on social media. And we're going to be talking today about how she has been committed to growth. My name is Monica Michelle with Monica Michelle Marketing. I am your solutionist marketer. Find me over on social media at Monica Michelle S. I'm everywhere. So, Robyn, please, by all means, author and mastermind leader, tell us, what all do you do? Tell us about you.
Yes. Well, first, Monica, thank you so much for having me. It looks like I've lost Monica.
No.
Oh, you're there? Perfect. All right.
I'll be switching around a little bit, so you're good.
Yes. Okay. So thank you again for having me. I really appreciate just the opportunity to be on this podcast and just to be a part of this discussion, because this is something that's near and dear to me. So thank you so much. So I'm Robyn Woods. I am the CEO of Wine and Mastermind. It is a personal development company where we help women in leadership redefine success, reprioritize their well-being, and reinvent their lives. I'm also the author of the book Boss Moms Move Differently. And listen, I'm just out here. I'm being a wife. I'm being a mom. I still work in a full-time role right now, and also doing something that I absolutely love with helping other women just grow in really any aspect of their life. And so it's just a pleasure to be a part of this discussion today.
Absolutely. And I definitely appreciate you joining me. I did not know that your brand, your thing was personal development. I mean, I guess I kind of knew, because it clearly says Boss Mom Make Moves. It says that, and masterminds are all about growing, but I did not know that was the focus or the angst or the heartbeat behind it. So tell us why, how come that is important?
Oh, so, okay, first, let me just say this. So the business has evolved, right? Like any business. And again, committed to growing. So it was one of those things where I had to really get honest, because it actually started as a business consulting company. And I don't know, I think that's kind of where you and I, where we kind of reconnected, right? Along the lines of it being more business consulting, business strategy. And I shifted over probably the past year now, where I'm focusing more on personal development. Really, it's personal and professional development, to be honest with you. So I work, again, with a lot of corporate leaders. I work with women just who are in leadership, not only on the corporate side, but also even in business. And so it's something that, honestly, just kind of starting back from years ago for me, I've always been the type of person where I've always just wanted to get better at things. Now, I will also say that I was also the type of person who was what I call the box checker. So I was the one who, with this girl, listen, everything, if you told me to, especially for us, you were young, and as Black girls in time, you're told that you have to do all these things, right, in order to find a personal level of success and fulfillment and things of that nature. So I found myself checking off the boxes, going through, getting the education, right, getting the boo, getting the hubby, building a family, like all these different things that in my mind when I was younger, that I thought was necessary in order for me to feel that sense of accomplishment, only to discover that after years of going through a career where my background is in HR. And so while I still really operate in that function, so I'm a certified HR professional, and I don't work in my current role as an HR leader, but I have in many capacities previously. So it was roughly about 14, 15 years when I was working in HR. And I got to a place where it just felt as if I'm here, but it just really did not feel, I didn't feel that sense of fulfillment. And I think that the icing on the cake for me, I think, and I would say the thing that really got me to a point where I was like, okay, you have to do something differently, was when, hence the book, right, was after going through, I was working in a role, and I had been in this role for roughly about four to 5 years. I had 2 kids under the age of 2. And listen, I was a mess. I was trying to do everything, and I was still trying to operate in this career and grow in my career. And there were so many aspects of my life that were just falling apart. People would see me, people knew me, family and friends, and they would be like, oh, girl, you got it together. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm a hot mess internally, at home. My husband and I, we were bumping heads. And I just realized that I had to do something differently, and I had to move in a way that was not necessarily based off of what I had been taught or what I had learned over the years. And so I knew that if I really wanted to thrive in life, I really, especially because my mental health during that time, during that season, it suffered tremendously. I had also experienced a lot of grieving during that time. I had lost family members, literally three close, very close family members to me, all in one day. And so having to navigate through the grieving process and then jumping back in career, because again, society sometimes just makes you feel as if you just have to jump back into things, right? And it almost makes you feel as if there's this cap in terms of when you can grieve and when you need to basically move on with life. And so I found myself just trying to operate from a place that society has told me or society has taught me, right? In one way or another, that this is the way it should be, only to realize that it was just not working for me. It was just not working for my family. And so I knew that I ended up having to just literally shift my life and do something that was not really familiar with me. I wasn't really familiar with moving in that way.
And that's the crazy part about it. It's the stuff that we get used to that we internalize as normal because it's the way we grew up. It's the way we've always done it. We did it all that way when we were in college. We did that when we were in high school. So that was the norm. And as we continue to change our worldview and learn more of ourselves and learn of different things that are in the world that are outside of our bubble, we're able to discover that, hey, it could be different. I can do it a different way. And whether it's dealing with grief or just trying to figure out so I can be fulfilled, what that is, because each generation is different. And our parents or our grandparents generation, it was more like, oh no, get one job and you work it till you die because you want to retire and get that good benefits. And you like,
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But what if I want more? What if I want something different?
Exactly.
I find that to be interesting, but I applaud you on taking that journey and figuring out and growing and allowing yourself that space to grow so that you don't have to do it the way they always told us we had to do it.
Absolutely. And I just want to just share this really quickly because this is the thing that came to mind in terms of this is something that I actually put in my book. And I talk about it was a process where it was a family recipe that had been passed down for years. This was a pound cake recipe, been passed down for years. And everybody was telling me between my mom and I would bake this cake together. I would do it with my grandmother. And it was just one way. And it was very specific. If any of you know about baking cakes, there's like a specific way, any type of family recipe, way that you would need to bake it to really make the best cake. And so it got to a place where I ended up baking this cake. The cake was not turning out right. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I finally relied on an uncle of mine who he makes the types of cakes that just melt in your mouth.
Right.
I finally sucked it up. I was like, I'm just going to ask, what are you doing with this cake? Right. He ended up giving me pretty much the same ingredients, but it was just the way you would mix this cake was different, and it was a game changer. And so it was to the point where my grandmother, my aunts, they were like, no, that's not the right way. They were literally fighting him. I'm not saying fighting, but no, they were like, no, there's no way that cake is going to turn out terrible. You don't make cakes like that, right? And I tried out his recipe, which was completely different from what generations had been telling us to do. And this cake was literally the best cake I ever had, me and my family. It was that cake that melted in your mouth. So I share that because oftentimes we may have all the ingredients to be successful. We may have all the ingredients that we need in order to find the fulfillment. But sometimes it just means maybe mixing it differently, right? Maybe you have to eliminate certain ingredients. Sometimes it means maybe adding a little bit more flavor here and there, right? In terms of getting the result that we desire versus trying to operate from a recipe that other people may have handed to you, right? And I always look at that as being more of mindsets, more of narratives that we may have played over years, right? And thinking that it's just that one way of being versus there are so many other ways that we can operate and we can thrive in life. It's not a one size fits all type of thing, right?
Girl, that is so good. And it's crazy that just changing the order in which that you add the ingredients and mix them in, really, it's chemistry, right? On how you're making ingredients, the order that you're putting them in, how they combined and then combusted and doing all the things, how much that impacts and has just has a difference of an outcome on the recipe itself. And you're right. The same thing is with our life. I've been, as an adult, I started going to a chiropractor. And now growing up, going to a chiropractor was not a thing. Getting a massage was just, you go get a massage if for a luxury experience. Like, wasn't like, no, this is no. Like, no, I want to go. I want to see what this is about. Find a way to incorporate this on a regular basis. This is not.
Now, come on.
But once you learn about the benefits of the massages and the benefits of the chiropractic visits, how that one shift, how that one adjustment, because at the end of the day, you're probably with the chiropractor for 7 minutes. I'd be like, because I timed it. I said, okay, now I'm paying these people how much money? And I'm with you for 7 minutes. But then when I go home, my allergies have cleared up. My ears aren't itching. My throat's not itching. All these things have stopped because I've spent 7 minutes with you. It took me longer to get to you than it did for you to make this one adjustment. It's how that impacts our lives, but also how if we just change what we're doing and get open to new things, then those small shifts can make success, which makes me ask you this question, because you gave me a website, shiftsandsuccess.com. Tell me, what is it? What's good? How does that fold in? What's tip?
Yes. So thank you for asking that. So Shifts and Success, this is a workshop that I host on a frequent basis. So I've done probably over this past, 6 months, I've done 2. So my aim is to try to do them every quarter. So I'm going to have an upcoming workshop that's going to be in January. I have not solidified the date because that's my birthday month. And I'm still a little like, do I really want to teach on my birthday or even during my week? I'm trying to get better about really just taking time to just embrace myself, right? Celebrate myself. And I'm often the type where I'll just work through birthdays and all that stuff. So anyway, but yes, so that's where they can go to find information about like workshop. And this workshop is really around helping women to redefine success as what I talk about in terms of my business. We help women redefine success, reprioritize their well-being, and reinvent their lives. So it's an interactive workshop. We break down values, right? Because let's be honest, a lot of people just in general, we don't really know what our values are. And so we start operating from a place of making decisions and making moves in different areas where we realize that it's not even in alignment with what we really value anyway. And so sometimes that's where we end up either feeling stuck or either just feeling discontentment in our lives, because what's happening is a lot of times what we're doing is just not in alignment with what we value. Right. So getting clear about that. And then we take during the interactive workshop, we also take women through where we're finding ways that we can really just stay more in tune to ourselves. So I actually take them through a shifts framework, and it stands for standards, habits, identity, future, time, and support. And so those are basically the 6 pillars of my shifts framework that I basically help women to go through and really take some time to reflect on those particular areas so that they can elevate their family experiences, their life experience, even their career experiences.
And these workshops, they're virtual, so anyone will be able to attend.
Yes, really, this one is virtual. One is coming up is virtual. Previously, it was in person, so it was. Okay. So I try to balance it out a little bit, but it's gonna be virtual.
Okay, sounds good. Now, so if anyone wants to get a taste of who you are, what you're doing, what you got going on, that would be a really good place to start, other than your book, of course. And that would be a good place to start and kind of know you. When it comes to Wine and Mastermind, what is that? And how come? And tell me more.
Yes. A Wine and Mastermind is a mastermind, right? Like basically, it's a mastermind. It's a group of women where we come together, and honestly, a lot of it is more coaching, but it really is more of we're coming together, workshop style. We're putting in work together, so it is very interactive. We have a group of women in a community where we share our experiences, we share our challenges, we share our wins. We share those moments where we're just trying to grow, right? And so my goal as the lead over this organization, as the CEO over this organization, is to provide resources and tools. So oftentimes that's either going to be in the form of workshops. It may be bringing on guest speakers to come in if they're the subject matter to be able to talk about it. But our focus is primarily around well-being. So when I think about well-being, I think about I identify 5 pillars, and that's financial well-being, emotional, social, occupational, and physical. So we focus on those elements of well-being. And what I believe is that when we can get to a place where we have some level of satisfaction in those 5 areas, it's not going to be perfect, right? But when we get to a place where we're actively working, so for example, 5, 6 pillars of well-being that we have, If you identify 2 areas where you really want to work on, you want to work through, we work on those things. And so we help you navigate through working on it and building support mechanisms to be able to help you work through those challenges.
And so working through those challenges with the wine and mastermind, that's a longer commitment. That's not I'm just committing to come to one at a time. No, I'm committing to come to a series of them. I'm committing to be connected and a long-term growth.
Yes. And honestly, what I've been offering lately has been more VIP days. So it's more like, so we offer VIP days where I sit down, because here's the thing, a lot of us we're working professionals in the community, working professionals, or we're moms, we have loved ones, we have families, right? And we're building businesses. And so I found that it's been more convenient for women where we do our VIP days to come together and work through some of these things as well. And then there's ongoing support after that.
Sounds good. My next question is, how do you, as the CEO, the coach, how do you continue to remain committed to growth? What are things that you have learned about yourself, or what are places that you're trying to go and you say, okay, in order for me to keep my sanity, I have to do this, that, and the third, or in order for me to continue to grow with finances or whatever, I have to do 1, 2, and 3. What is that? How does that look to you?
So first and foremost, I would say that I am a huge proponent of practicing what you preach. So that's number one. So a lot of the things that I teach about, a lot of the things that I coach clients on is around things that I have either experienced at one point, or I may be currently encountering that same season as well. And so I'm sharing ways that I've been able to work through those challenges. So again, going back to, I look at 5 pillars of well-being. I believe that if you find that you're just not fulfilled, you're not getting what you need out of any of those 5 pillars of well-being, I do believe that that's where most people find the most level of discontentment, right? And that's where sometimes we don't realize what it is, but we're not really tuning in to those specific areas of our life. And so for me personally, what I have learned to do, and I'll give an example as it relates to, let's say, mental health, right? Mental, emotional health. Anytime I feel that I'm getting to a place where I'm like, oh, I have all these racing thoughts, or I'm overthinking things, right? And I'm not able to sleep. Anytime I go through a cycle where I'm not able to sleep, or I'm just not feeling settled on just my day to day, I don't feel centered, I don't feel grounded. Oftentimes I know it's time for me to take a pause, and I kind of go through this framework. It's basically pause, pivot, and perform. And so during the season of pause is where I say, you know what, this is not working for me right now in terms of my mental, my emotional health. So now I'm going to take some time to just pause and reflect on what's happening. What are the things that are going on that are within my control? I take time to examine and really reflect on options that are available to me, right? And then when I get in the stage of pivot, what that means is, what am I going to do differently about the situation, right? Because I know I got to do something different, but what am I going to commit to over the next 15, 30 days, over the next 3 months to do something different? Because oftentimes we may create the same issues, the same habits, the same results, because we're still doing things the same way. So oftentimes I just try to get in a place where I take a step back, pause, I pivot. Once I've made a commitment to what those things are that I'm going to change, then I perform. And during that season of performance, I need accountability, even if that's my husband, even if that's a friend. I'm currently a part of a mastermind right now, and this is more a mastermind that I've invested in. So I'm a part of a mastermind. So not only do I facilitate my own, but I'm also willing to invest into other coaching programs and masterminds so that I can also elevate my growth and my way of thinking. So I would say for me, that's probably been the most, I would say for me, that's probably been the best that I could do in terms of really elevating my growth and just seasons where I feel like I need some work. I got some things I got to do. I kind of go through that framework of pause, pivot, and perform.
Now, listen, you said pause, pivot, and perform, but the first thing I thought was, oh, this is the HR and her coming out, because this sounds like you just put somebody on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. And
I need to think about that. How can I incorporate some HR? I need to think about some. I need to figure out how I can. I'm gonna think about that. But thank you.
Accountability is okay. Now this ain't working. We need to change this up.
Yeah, but you know what? For anybody, and I would say anybody who's listening, I would definitely apply whatever your framework is, whatever principle, but it's almost like like anything, right? Like you're working in a role and there may be some area to improve, right? Now, most of the people who are probably listening to this, you wouldn't need a pip, right? Nobody would have to give you a pip because you're committed to growing at the end of the day. That's why you're listening, right? But I will say that oftentimes what I find is that many of us, we pick and choose what areas, and I say pick and choose, but I think we pick and choose sometimes what areas we need to focus on and what areas that we can grow in. And what I mean by that is sometimes we're thriving in our work, but when it comes to relationships back at home, we don't sometimes we're very hesitant about taking the time to settle in and figure out how can how can I make my relationships better, right? How can I make my physical health, my mental health better? I'm thriving at work, but what can I be doing about my finances, right? And so I feel like sometimes we miss it because at the end of the day, all of it intertwines in some way, right? And so really taking that time to assess what's happening, all of those aspects of our lives. Again, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, but
as you are aware, our time is up. But I have one final question for you, and I want to know
when
it flies by, especially when you give it all the tea and dropping all the nuggets.
I know it's been good.
I have this one final question for you.
Okay.
And it's something that I really want to know from you. In 2 or 3 minutes, can you tell us, to all of those that are listening, and you're saying, okay, I'm a woman, I'm in business, I go to work, whatever that is, I'm working, but I want to grow and I want to continue to expand and do more and go more towards my goals. And when you talk about pause, pivot, and performance, what's 2 or 3 things that they can ask themselves when they're starting to do this pause? Because sometimes you know that something's wrong, but you don't know what to do. If it's an area that you're not proficient in, if the area, then it's like, oh, I don't even know where to begin. What do I even ask myself or even think of so that I can start this PPP process?
Yes. I would say you're in a season of pause. You're not exactly sure where to start. One of the things I talk about in that stage of pause is to seek other perspectives. And sometimes in that season of pause, it's also a good idea to take some time to educate yourself. And if you don't really know where to start in terms of educating yourself, I do say seek out advice, seek out counsel. That may mean seeking out counsel to a friend, and sometimes it may mean investing into a coach, a mentor, seeking other perspectives and just learning, just taking that time to educate yourself in that particular area can go very far for you. So I would also, in one last thing in terms of you in that season of pause, seeking perspectives, seeking mentorship, educating yourself, but then also asking yourself, what is in my control, right? What can I do that's in my control in this particular situation? Because oftentimes we find that, let's say you're working in a job, right? You want to excel in your career. You're not exactly sure how do you excel, right? What would that look like for me? Because maybe I want to get out of this career. Maybe this is not the career that I really want to be in right now, but I know that I want to continue to grow and excel professionally. Ask yourself what is in your control rather than looking at, well, I'm waiting on this corporation to offer me a position or this type of job to appear out of thin air, right? Oftentimes it's going to mean you taking ownership of those things that are within your control to make some things move and shake.
Yes, that is absolutely correct, because you have to shift your own things for your own self instead of waiting on someone to do it for you. So make sure you swing by shifts with an and success.com so you can get more information about future mastermind workshops that she'll be doing on a quarterly basis, and you can sign up and join there. And I'm pretty sure she'll be sprinkling in a little bit of the PPPs or other processes that she have happening. But thank you so much, Robyn. I appreciate you coming and spending some time with us and sharing a little bit about your journey and walking through us about how you're committed to growth and how you've been committed to growth and some of the things that you had to walk through to get there. So we do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Monica. You are amazing. And I've just really enjoyed this discussion. So thank you again for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And if you are still committed to growth after listening and watching this episode of the podcast, Committed to Growth, then by all means, I'm going to catch you on the next episode. Talk to you later. All right.